Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to part 2 of the SUBIEPEEK Season 42, Season 43 review. It's your boy Deso. Just to reintroduce myself, I am the IGL slash Opper of SUBIEPEEK, and I've been doing this two-part series just kind of as an overview of what happened in the last two seasons. This episode, I'm going to focus more so on the team aspect. What happened in the team that kind of made everything maybe not fall apart, but didn't help us have the results and the success that we were hoping for. So, to start off, season 42, you know what? It's a new season, it's a new roster. This is the first time we're ever playing together. I think we got 5 wins, 2 of those are forfeit wins. So, I mean, we got 3 true wins. It it happens, honestly. Like, whatever, we had a foundation to build upon. So that wasn't the focus. The focus for me is really 43 and kind of how we were talking about adjusting and how we were going to adjust our gameplay and adjust the calling, adjust the roles, adjust the everything. Like everything from the top down was reorganized to give us as much chance of a success as possible. And the results for season 43 do not really speak to that almost at all. Um, we had 5 wins with 1 forfeit loss, so 4 true wins. So a little bit better, kind of like that. But I kind of want to just go into exactly what happened from my perspective of the roster, and it's something we had a team meeting. We've kind of discussed all of this. Again, it's just going to be a wider overview for everyone, kind of that's watching this video, that's kept up with us on the season, just to kind of get an understanding of what happened. So we started off the season really strong. We came into it, new IGL, same Opper, we had new roles, we felt good going into season 43. I think what had happened was the biggest thing that affected us was the changes in schedule that we had. So I work in healthcare, and my schedule is a rotation where I go 2 days, 2 nights, 5 days off, and then it just continues to cycle like that. So I never work the same day multiple times in a week or in a 2 week period, and I never, like, I don't just have a consistent schedule where I can say, yes, I am available Monday through Wednesday at 8 p.m. sharp type of thing. And then we had an individual who unfortunately got promoted, which is great for them, but unfortunately for us, it means that he had to start super early in the days, and we weren't able to really get online towards the back half of the day because that guy woke up at like 4 o'clock in the morning and he worked at 5, and it just became a whole life thing. Once we all got on, it was about 8, 9 o'clock for him. He's been already up for 15 hours or so. He needs a break. He needs to go to bed before the next day. So I think that kind of was the biggest curse in our performance because we did a couple things right to start. We were doing like we kind of had set practice days, and this is something that I had come up with as the IGL, where I said, listen, I have the one that has the rotating schedule. I am going to give you guys like 2 to 3 days in my period that I have time off, and let's practice those days. Because everyone else was basically available after 7, 8 p.m. for the most parts, and everyone was okay with that. And we did that probably twice. And then people didn't show up, people just didn't say anything. It would be all of a sudden that it's me in the voice chat, we'd have one other person in, and I guess it's like, oh, well, I guess no one else is coming in, no one said anything, even though we are calling for everyone to come in. It's just the two of us, let's go pug, I guess, we'll have a good time. And yeah, that was kind of the big thing. So we had practice schedules, we had kind of everything in place to be successful, and then we just kind of fell apart. So for me, I'll just kind of go from my perspective of what I had planned out. So kind of each of those days, we would have done like a scrim and kind of talked about what went right and what went wrong. And each scrim We don't take a scrim as a absolutely need to win. We take a scrim as in, you know what, this is your time to learn. You know what, let's go into overpass and practice our A defaults, or let's practice our B defaults, and how does that look like, and how can we kind of adjust the minutia of that and the timing of that. So that's kind of how I went into it. And then afterwards, what we would do is I made a couple utility videos. Some are live on the channel, some are private. That are just kind of going over the maps and says, hey, here's utility you can throw on Mirage, Inferno, Overpass, Ancient, Dust 2, that would really help us out. Um, and yeah, everyone seemed on board with that. Everyone seemed okay with that. And then it just kind of, again, as I said earlier, um, everyone just kind of fizzled out. No one was really showing up. No one was really giving input. So it was kind of tough from my uh, point of view as an IGL to be able to have everyone come in and do all their thing. So yeah, that's kind of the big thing with the practice. We wanted to practice and we had everything to set up to practice, and then we just never did. We also had some conflicting opinions, and these mostly didn't show up in game so much as they showed up. Sorry, these didn't really show up so much out of the game as they did in game, where we would be talking about something, and then someone else would chime in that said, "Hey, it should actually be uh, this, this, and this," whereas your call is this and this and this. And I'm like, "Well, no, that's not my style. That's not my system." And I would kind of break it down, and then it would be, "Well, no, I just think we should do it this way." And it's like, no, like this is how it's going to be set up, and this is why. Because if we do X, Y, or Z, these are the counters that we can do to like combat the CTs pushing us, or this is how we'll adjust on the CT side. And it just was very not cohesive as a unit sometimes. Because there was a lot of repetition, and same thing going on repetition in game. Sometimes I'd have to call a strat twice for people to listen, and that's something that kind of really isn't acceptable. IMO, if you're the IGL and you're playing, a season to get better and to maybe go up to IM or go up to main, you really got to listen to your IGL. But sometimes, like, I'd make a call and then people were like, sorry, what? I wasn't listening. It's like, come on, guys, like, we're all trying to get better here. But I think the big one that kind of the second biggest, aside from not being able to practice, was actually the catalyst for not practicing. Is we had in our first couple of games where we did very, very well, and then we failed to close out the maps. So, for example, the first game we won, the second game we got blown out. I think the second game we lost, the third game we lost as well, sorry. And then the fourth game we went back to Mirage and we had a very, very good lead. So people started feeling good, like whatever. But then the downside of that, and kind of, last video I talked about not taking in the, like, not grabbing the reins and pulling everyone in when they needed to. This was a game that I needed to do that. We went from 15-9 up and they pushed us into OT, and we lost in double OT 22-20. Um, and I think that one for me was probably the match that hurt the most for everyone, because we literally threw it away. Everyone was doing their own thing, no one was listening. Um, and like when they did listen to a strat, they would deviate kind of part way through, just kind of doing their own thing, or one person would always try to do their own thing, just because at some point when you're up 15-9 and then people start coming back on you, um, the discipline kind of goes away, and people often revert back to the thought process of, we're losing, I need to be the hero, I need to try something that'll win my team the game, and they'll try something and they'll die. Very untradeable death, or um, they'll try to do something on their own and just it's completely given away what we're trying to do. Um, so I think one of those types of situations just needs a little bit of a firmer approach from my end as well. So that's kind of after that loss on that Mirage game. We won a couple times, but it wasn't as it wasn't as hyped when we won. It wasn't as like exciting. It was just very muted and people kind of still felt a little down. And I think that that motivation loss just kind of carried through towards the end of the season. And by the end of the season, honestly, we had some people at each other's throats just making unnecessary comments, and it just, as soon as you join a VC and you're at someone's throat, like it just makes for a bad mood, and people didn't perform well. And then I think the last game, genuinely, you guys have probably seen that demo. There was just no life behind that game, which was really unfortunate because that overpass game, we quote unquote didn't try, and we still had like a good chunk of rounds. So that's kind of just, it's a little disappointing from our end because I know as a roster that we were capable of doing really good things and that we just kind of fell apart um, when it mattered. That's kind of it, really. We fell apart when it mattered and we couldn't bring it back. So, kind of moving on with that as well. Like, this roster had a ton of potential. We had three big hitters in terms of fraggers on our team. We had myself, we had Nasty, we had Deflarion, who were just solid all around players who can, no matter what, we will show up with 20, 25 kills a match, like, type of like dependable. Then we also had Lakai, and Lakai was a player who kind of struggled in season 42, and what he did was he's like, hey, I want to switch it up. I'm not playing well. So he went, say, on Inferno, for example, he was the B site player. He went and he played on Balcony and Pit on Inferno. He watched demos and he improved so well. Every single Inferno game we had, that guy had multi frags, he had impact, he did super well. And then Riak was the IGL in season 42, and one of the things he was able to do was transition into a lurker type role. What I wanted for him was to have enough freedom that he didn't feel like he gave too much away when I took over the IGL role. And the lurking, like honestly, sometimes was super impactful, but it was just, I'm not sure if it was like a new role or somewhat, but it was just some of the timings were a little bit off. But I think if you're in a new role, just like I was opping last season, if we had stuck together and we were doing a season 44 and we're going to do a season 45, um, then honestly, like that's something that could really improve. Or maybe we change roles again. We just kind of have to figure out where to put the right players. You know what I mean? So it's not necessarily we're just going to put people where they make sense. Sometimes we might have to put people where they might not expect to do well to make them shine. The last thing that I kind of want to say is um, we do have a plan going forward for SUBIEPEEK season 44 and 45. For season 44, we're going to take it off. We need some of our players just need a little bit of a break. Some of our players are unable to commit due to time constraints, so they will not be playing the next season, so we'll have to do some tryouts. And the other thing for us is, so what we have as a plan is we are going to do season 44 as a break, as I said, and we're going to do a kind of like a scrim season where we take the knowledge we learned in 42 and 43, and we're going to apply it to scrims, basically the entire season of 44. And then if nothing changes and we're still making the same mistakes, if we're still having internal arguments, then you know what? Maybe season 45 isn't a good idea. And then for 45, we'll take everything that we applied during the scrim season and well, you know what? We're going to bring it into 45. And we're going to start off strong. We're going to hit the ground running. And the expectation again would be playoffs at a minimum and then hopefully hitting main together because this roster is a really good vibing roster. Everyone is kind of in a good mood all the time. Everyone's very chill. Everyone's an adult. Everyone will behave as such. Sometimes it gets a little away from us, but honestly, like we're all human. No one's perfect. So I'm gonna reserve my hopes, but I think that we could definitely get a little bit more mileage out of the Subi than people might expect from us. So, anyways, that's basically the season 42 and 43 in an overview, we had some glaring issues. But you know what? We had some really strong points as well, and I think if we either continue up on it or we go our separate ways, it wasn't for nothing. All of us learned a lot, and the you know, you never know what the future holds for the roster. So thank you very much for watching this very long-winded kind of video about what happened and what went wrong, and kind of how we can improve. Thank you again, everyone, for all your support. It's been incredible to see kind of everyone supporting, leaving nice comments, saying nice things. The views have been great. I mean, it's literally only 30 to 40 views, but that's 30 to 40 views more than I expected to have, because this was, again, as I said in the previous video, a channel that I had made for our roster to be able to see utility videos and to watch our demos. So I hope you guys have an excellent day, and I hope you guys continue to stick around and support me and support the roster, whether that be this one or the next one that I'm on. And we're gonna see how it goes. So see you guys in another video, and catch y'all later. Peace.